I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're unpacking a powerful fusion of poetry, politics, and prose. We're talking about an amazing book. It is called Scraps, Poetic Prose During the Time of Contagion, version point oh 0.02. It is written by a wonderful author. His name is Dale McNutt. This thought-provoking work captures the emotional and intellectual turbulence of recent years, from pandemics to protests, through lyrical reflections and incisive sidebars. It's a poetic time capsule and a call to consciousness, inviting readers to feel, think, and act in a world that's been profoundly shaken. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Dale, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thank you, Logan. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you on the show. Scraps is a very intriguing title. And I guess in a way it is scraps because it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, all pointing towards a direction. Talk to us a little bit about the inspiration, the creation, and the title.
Well, you're right about the title Scraps. I'm an artist and a designer. I made my living as a designer and as an artist, and I think for me, scraps of news, ideas, scraps from things I've read in books. I'm a collector that way. So collecting, a lot of this book was written on my iPhone, at least the poetic part, during the last 4 or 5 years. And I began at the end of 2019. So there are scraps of ideas and scraps of information and things. I don't know if you're familiar with magnetic poetry for the refrigerator, but you have, 100 words or more, and randomly you start to piece them together, and a bigger picture or a poem happens or a piece of writing happens. I work a lot like that.
Take little scraps of words, phrases, and ideas and put them
Yeah,
all
the New York
together.
Times every day. Sometimes I'd sit down with the phone and just type in some headlines or what was going on. It has been a chaotic time, both politically and beginning with COVID, which really changed a lot of lives. I also had scraps of ideas and information from my entrepreneurial life, from an entrepreneurial and co-working space that we established in Pittsburgh. My wife and I were engaged in community redevelopment. And there were a lot of ideas about creativity, about entrepreneurship, about navigating the world that came out of that period as well. So I brought some of that forward, and I took some scraps of information and ideas from that writing as well.
You talk about poetic prose. I love the term. Talk to us about how it helps you express your ideas, and what ideas that are expressed do you feel resonate most with you that you'd like to share with readers and viewers here today?
Well, the book is broken into 9 sections, and each section sort of focuses on a different set of ideas. I won't say issues. I don't think that's the correct word. I have a section on Maine because of my travels to Maine. I have a section called Contagion, Amends, Choice, section called Fidelity. And the book sort of naturally fell together that way. I think overall the book is 77 years old. And I think in Pittsburgh at the beginning of COVID-19, which was December 2019, and moving into 2020, I met some new people. I met a guy named John Marks who heavily influenced me. He's 87 today, sharp as a tack, professor at University of Pittsburgh. And he was a new friend and a fast friend. We became friends very quickly. And we read a lot together. We read books on mathematics, books on quantum physics, books on science, the Climate Book by Greta Thunberg, the 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah Jones. I think, just educating myself and taking in information in a more detailed way than I ever had before.
Yeah.
And a younger man named Timothy Morton, I think he's in his early 50s now. There was a Guardian article about Timothy Morton, who's an ecologist and philosopher, and describes the problems we have in today's world as hyper objects. In other words, our problems are so complex, they're interconnected and come from sources we might not even imagine. And it's very hard for a human being to comprehend all the implications of those connections. And it could be climate change. It could be the amount of nuclear waste around the world. It could be problems on such a scale that it's hard for human beings to understand how to wrestle with them, especially political and policy-wise.
Yeah.
And we're sort of been caught in a time where, at least in this country, not much is being done about a lot of those problems.
Yeah.
And so this book was sort of a call to action. Like, let's take a look at these issues. And the poetic prose is a term I like because I'm not going to write a novel. I'm not that kind of writer. I'm not going to write a book of several hundred pages, all in prose. I'm not going to talk to you through a book like that. But the poetic structure allows me to bring all kinds of ideas together in a very short sequence of 32 or 27 lines. Yeah. And I think each piece, though it may lean toward a topic, whether it's women's rights or whether it's the COVID or whether the war in Ukraine or Black Lives Matter, I think in each piece of work, I try to find a bigger idea, a bigger connection point, a universal idea. And I think that's the gist of it. I don't think the prose works by itself for me, although I have a number of small, short essays in the book. But I think the poetic form allows me to be a little abstract and find clarity. I'm comfortable in that mode. I know I can make something in that mode. I'm not so sure about writing a book just in prose.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The end of the world has already occurred. Talk to us about that idea, how you interpret it, and what it should mean for the readers.
Timothy Morton wrote that. And the end, he talks about the world right now as a stage set that we're tearing down. And I think we're in a time of profound change. I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic guy overall. I'm a creator. I've painted. I've created spaces for young entrepreneurs and makers. I think it's the end of this world that we've known for the past 200 years. The end of the industrial world, the end of capitalism as we know it, as it's practiced right now. And we need to create something new. We need to help, if it's possible, to heal the planet. I think in the background, there's a lot of extraordinary human beings who are at that work, who are doing that work. The headlines doesn't always carry that background weight, but I think that's happening in the world. I think there's chaos right now, especially in this country's political climate. People are rebelling against what's been the status quo. People are rebelling against this vast waste that we've created, the income disparity that exists on the entire planet right now. And there's a lot of kicking and screaming of people and institutions and industries that just don't want to change. And so I don't think it means the end of the world and a disintegration of everything necessarily. I think it's more optimistic than that. I think it just says we're tearing down the stage set right now for something new.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the spiritual toll of living in a time of contagion, whether it's political, environmental, or biological?
Well, I referred to in the back of the book and inside, I think that we are in a contagion. I think that, our industrial complex told us about poison that a little bit won't hurt you. Like, we're creating a product, we're using this product, and we know, or they knew, or maybe we didn't know, that it wasn't quite safe for human consumption, but a little bit won't hurt you. Well, now that little bit has become a contagion. And I think that's the same with a lot of the structures that are a part of our policy and our politics right now. Um, I don't think we talk about them well. And I don't think there's a lack of education in this country. I think there's just a lack of awareness. Our news media, as you know, is so fragmented. We get our information. I still get the Sunday New York Times, but I get most of my information on my iPhone from Instagram or other news sources, or the Times on the iPhone, or Atlantic Magazine, or any of the other hundreds of publications that are out there presenting the world to us. So I think there's a lot of stuff that needs fixed. And I think that we're at a time of profound change where many of us are realizing that, and many of us are kicking and screaming that we don't want it to change. So I think it's just an inflection point in our whole culture, in our whole global context right now, that requires looking at. And I think the book looks at that. From my point of view, I try to look at those problems or those issues, and I try to speak to it. I try to bring, I think, let me put it this way. If I had another life to live, I think in my next life, I'd like to be a museum curator, a curator that brings ideas and thoughts and images from science to art. I think I'd like to bring that all together. I worked 10 years for the Carnegie Museum, and there was a curator there who did just that. And I was always envious of that. I thought, that's what I am, a curator of ideas, of bringing scraps, again, of information and ideas together. And just seeing what we can make of it. What can I make of it? Is really, I approach the work, whether it's visual or whether it's this piece of writing. I think the book is very strong in a lot of ways. I don't know that I'm going to get it's a complicated book, and it's 465 pages. And there's a lot tucked into those pages. I'm hoping I can find a little bit bigger voice through the writing, and I'm hoping it gets read by people who can talk about it and put it out there in a bigger way than I'm able to.
Well, we're happy to be
Like
talking.
what we're doing right now.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Well, we're happy to be talking about it today. I think you've done a wonderful job here curating a lot of different ideas, a lot of different themes, a lot of different issues affecting our time now, our time in the past, and our time going forward. The name of the book we've been talking about today is called Scraps, Poetic Prose During the Time of Contagion, version .02. It is a profound poetic response to the chaos, courage, and complexity of our times. Dale, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.